Making a podcast is a lot of things. Hard, rewarding, fun. But there's one thing making a podcast is not: exceptional. And the sooner you come to grips with that harsh reality, the better for your podcast. Hello and welcome to another Podcast Pontifications with me, Evo Terra. Podcasting is not special. It is not, as evidenced by the 1 million shows that are listed in Apple Podcasts right now. It's not a great feat to make a podcast. It does not take, for the vast majority of us, heroic efforts. Maybe it did. Actually, it really didn't. But nonetheless, let's pretend that maybe it did back in the day. But it's, as I've said many times, getting easier and easier to make a podcast. And as I just said, there are over 1 million available. So clearly it's not super difficult. Yet it is shrouded in this sea of exceptionalism. And by that, I don't mean from the general listening public, although maybe some of the people out there that you meet will say, wow, you have a podcast? Oh, that's amazing. But I don't really think that happens a lot. It's been more of a, oh, good for you, than really anything. No, that air of whatever I called it a moment ago, that we're surrounded by this exceptionalism, it seems to come from within the community. It seems to come from within the community, especially the more community-minded aspects of this community. And don't get me wrong. I think it's great that anybody wants to start a podcast can start a podcast. Yes. I think it's great that there are really cheap tools and really free tools that allow people to explore their creativity behind a microphone, even if that's the cheapo onboard microphone that comes with their computer. That's great. I'm not suggesting at any point of what I'm going to tell you today, I'm not suggesting that we should make it harder or we should institute gatekeepers in the way. I'm just saying, and I always hate it when someone says, I'm just saying, but I said it, I'm just saying that the act of having a podcast isn't exceptional, and we shouldn't treat it that way. I'm an author as well, and by I'm an author, it means I've written like 5 different books. And before I wrote a book, I thought, wow, this is really hard. Writing a book must be a difficult thing. And in fact, writing a book is a difficult thing. It requires time, energy, and effort to sit down and focus. But realistically, it's just putting words on a paper. You know, it's typing or writing out long form if that's what you want to do. And once you've done it, and once any other published author can confess to this, you look back and you go, wow, that was hard, but it wasn't really exceptional. Especially that first draft you wrote, right? Now, that wasn't exceptional at all, was it? That was utter garbage, because that's what first drafts are. They're made better over time. Musicians have, the idea of making it big. Well, there's several steps you have to go through to get there. You're playing in the band when you're in the garage with your friends. Maybe you scrape together enough money to go sit inside a recording studio and kick out an album or two, but yeah, it was effort, man. You wrote all those songs. Wow, that's great. You made an effort to make that album, that CD, that MP3 stick. Wonderful. Not really exceptional, though, is it? I mean, there's a lot out there. Same thing for drawing. If you are a sketch artist and you sketch on your iPod, sketch on your iPad and your notebook, various things. It's great that you want to explore that creativity, but it doesn't make the output of that exceptional. Just the act in and of itself is not enough to become exceptional. Now, I'm harping on this. I've wanted to talk about this for some time right now. It's going back to the community-minded people out there, who again, I think is great. I think people need encouragement, especially when they're jumping into this right out of the bat and they'd have no idea what they want to do. I think it's wonderful that we have places where people can go and get mostly non-judgmental assistance. I think that all needs to continue. There's a negative aspect to that, and that is that there is the assumption that what everyone is going to make is going to be great. And it's not. There's the assumption that everything that is created is somehow worthy of praise. And it's not. I'm okay with praising kids for taking efforts. I'm okay with praising, grown-ups for taking efforts and doing things, but I also want to inject a little bit of harsh reality into the world, and that is, it's great that you're exploring something and having fun. It's great that it is rewarding to you. It's great that you went through the pain and suffering to do it. But that doesn't make it exceptional. That makes it great for you. And maybe the group of people that are associated with that thing. And here's the trick. Maybe that's all that it needs. I mean, if it's hard work that was rewarding to you and fun, why wouldn't you keep doing it? That's great. You don't need it to be exceptional to anybody else but you. I try never to call anybody out, and I'm not calling anybody out, when they put out content for the world to hear that is not fantastic. That's fine. I mean, I'm not going to call somebody out because a lot of times you don't know. And I think that's one of the negative aspects that comes out of this big kumbaya hug that we have in the podcasting community, of which I've been a part of and encouraged, is that we're not letting people understand the difference between something that is really worthy of being shared with the entire world and something that is just, hey, if you like my stuff, that's great. I think a lot of the cheerleaders out there who are pushing people to promote your work and say great things and celebrate your... I think deep down inside, they all think the same thing. Yeah, you should be celebrating those things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're worthy of getting 1 billion downloads, which nobody has, by the way. It's this tricky thing when you encourage people to make something, and they've made something that fits their own criteria of what success looks like, and then it goes out to the world. And you find out that other people in the world have different criteria for success and quality. You find out quickly that Sturgeon's law applies in all things. And that's a tough road to hoe. That's a tough place to be when you recognize that your baby is your baby, but it's not everybody else's baby. Again, that doesn't mean you should quit. That means you should do the things you want to do that are hard, rewarding, and fun for you. But if you really want it to be exceptional, it might take more than that. And then you might not have it. And that needs to be okay. Or you need to work really hard and find a way to where you do have it. But just note, making a podcast in and of itself, there's nothing special about that. So with that bit of a downer note, I will say, hey, don't send this to someone who needs to hear it, because then you'd be a rude person. However, if you do need some words of encouragement shared with other people, by all means, find a podcast or tell them about podcastpontifications.com. And if you are so inclined, even after I burst your bubble, to throw me a little support, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/evoterra. And who knows, if I get a few more of those, maybe I'll have happier, more upbeat things to say. Or not. But that's okay. I want to be that contrarian voice in podcasting, and sometimes some things need to be said. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. I shall be back tomorrow with yet another podcast Pontifications. Cheers!